right, it's that time of the year again. Football season has just started, and we're dying for a new football manager because obviously the old one won't do anymore. And I think this is something of a post-match interview because basically the game is done. You've put out the demo, everything's in there. Maybe there will be a patch or two down the line, but how do you feel about this year's product?
Um, well, I feel tired at the moment because we literally have just finished it, and then I've come off to do PR. But as someone who plays the game myself a lot, I'm really enjoying it, which is a good thing, really, seeing as we spent a long time playing it. It's actually quite strange this year because there are more new features than ever before. There's over 800 new features. A lot of them are quite small. There's some revolutionary things. We've got the add and remove leagues feature as well, and the adaptive layout, as well as a tutorial system, which will change the way that certain people play the game. But the game, for some reason, it just feels more whole this year. It feels like a great experience when you're playing it. And I'd never really felt that any of our games weren't complete before when you were playing them, but this year it really does feel complete. So, you say that there might be a couple of patches. At the moment, we're not planning any patches. We will react to what the different communities, the Facebook community, the SI community, and the wider communities out there of people playing the game. If they think that something needs fixing, then we'll look at doing it. But at the moment, we're planning a data update next year, and that's it. But I'm sure people will find things that need to be tweaked, and we'll react as quickly as we can when they do. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun to play, and that's the reaction we've been getting from the demo as well. Normally at this time of year, I'm getting a lot of hate coming through on Twitter from people because certain features aren't in there, or we've done something that they don't like. This year, the biggest argument I've had on Twitter so far has been Liverpool's transfer budget. And if that's the biggest problem someone can find, I'm pretty happy with that. So it's looking good.
I think a lot of managers have that problem in Liverpool as well.
Probably they do. I mean, they have spent a lot of money, though, to be fair. They're maybe if their chief scout hadn't come out and said we're not looking to buy anyone else again, then now that we've got a complete squad, then their budget would have been a bit higher. But we've just got to react to what we see on that score, which is why they don't have a lot of money. But you've still got a few players to sell. So if you are a Liverpool fan, you can still get some money in.
Yeah, I think that's how they started the season, had a lot of players to sell.
Yeah.
So a few things that struck me from the new game. I think you didn't really talk about it, but customization and sort of adapting to the players, what the player wants out of the game is like key to a lot of the new features that you've added into the game.
That's very true, and one of the reasons why we worked on that so hard this year is because there are so many different types of people who play the game and so many people who play it in different ways. We've got the hardcore players who like playing for 30, 40 seasons. They only play one game that they start on the day of release, and it keeps them going to the end. So for those guys, we've got the Add Remove League feature so that they can start off with a nice, smooth, fast experience with having the league that they want to start in, but then they can add any of the other leagues at any time and have an accurate replication of how that league would be 5 or 6 years down the line. Through letting people who like to skin the game, who aren't happy with the choice that we make with the text, they can change the colour of all the text if they want to inside the game. Through to the tone system, which effectively allows you to play the game as an RPG and really come up with your own character for your manager and deal with the players in the way that you want to. People on older machines will be playing with less information on the screen than people with newer machines with higher resolution because of the adaptive layout. But there's also elements that we've added in, a lot of new social networking elements. We had Twitter and YouTube last year. This year we've expanded onto Facebook, and you can post your match reports directly onto Facebook from the game. But we've also allowed a load of people were using the YouTube stuff last year and were uploading goals, but they were also editing their own packages in other video packages. And some of the stuff that we saw being done was amazing. So we now allow you to do that inside the game as well. You can create your own highlights packages. But then for people who've never played the game before and maybe feel daunted by playing it, you've got the tutorial mode and the how-to system. So when we were looking at the full feature set and putting it together, I was looking at 3 different feature sets for new users, existing non-hardcore users, and the hardcore users, and putting things into the boxes for the different people, and then kind of merging it together. And there was lots of crossover, but there were also some features that were there for the specific groups. And then we were just trying to find the time to fit it all in, which thankfully we've been able to do with a higher level of polish than I think we've ever had in the game before. So yeah, it's a vintage year. It's 2012.
So I noticed that the RPG mentioning here, and I think that's always been there in Football Manager, that you could play it as an RPG, but it's maybe not been at the forefront. And I think a lot of players have played it as, I'm managing this club, I'm the club.
Yep.
I'm playing the club. If I get fired, I don't want to play anymore. I quit and I start out over again with the same club. But I do feel that there is this element of actually an intrigue of being a person, of having a career and having goals of your career, and sort of playing through what would be like an RPG experience from the little kid in the village who's going to go off to save the world, and sort of have that journey as well in the game. But it's not been like maybe at the forefront of what players have experienced.
We haven't made it as obvious before as it is this year. I mean, there've been hints to it, like on the first screen when you're typing in your details, you can decide which reputation level you have, as an example of how it's worked before, and it's always been there underlying inside the code that you are this person and you are creating your own character in the same way as all of the managers have characters inside the game, even down to Arsene Wenger having a preference to signing younger players. And you'll notice him doing that, and there'll be other managers who will look at lower league players and try and bring those through. So that's been there, but by having the tone system, by allowing you to decide exactly how you're going to deal with the players. Are you going to put your arm around Carlos Tevez and try and keep him happy, or are you going to passionately tell him to go and do one? You've got that choice inside the game, and it's been very eye-opening for us just watching people's reaction as we've added that stuff in, because we've known that it's always been there. Because we've spoken in the past about how it is an RPG and people have just laughed at us. People can actually see that this year with that, and with the ad remove leagues as well, which I keep going back to, but it's an important part of what we're doing. It does give things that extra immersive element. I think the game was always quite an immersive game because we allowed people to create their own story effectively, but now you can create not just 6 stories, but a huge amount of different little nuances in there. It's not deciding whether you're going to be good or evil, because you actually have to use things in different ways for different characters inside the game, because all the players are characters, all the managers are characters, all the journalists are characters, all the agents are characters. So being able to interact with them to another level, I think, is very important. And even the contract locks is part of that. When you're doing contract negotiations now, rather than you making an offer and the agent coming back and it going backwards and forwards, you can actually turn around and say, no, I will not pay the player more than this, or I have to have this player on a 5-year contract. And again, that becomes part of the role-playing game, because if you try and do that with the wrong agent, he's going to walk out the room and you will not get a chance to buy that player again.
But it also sort of seems to eliminate a lot of steps of like just moving little bit, and you could say that, okay, I have to lock it down for this one, but you have freedom to sort of move the other things up, and it actually sort of seems to make it a little bit easier to come to an agreement.
It's amazing how making things more complicated actually simplifies things. But we've learned that this year with the game on so many levels. We've changed the user interface. We've split the club and the squad screens completely apart, whereas before it was all one screen. And at the time, we were worried that that was going to overcomplicate things. And actually, it just makes things easier for people to find.